Middlesbrough are set for a bombshell exit before the end of the summer transfer window. Of course, we are talking about Finn Azaz, who is reportedly on the cusp of joining Southampton on a permanent deal. According to those suggestions, Finn Azaz is closing in on a deal that's worth £12 million plus £3 million in achievable add-ons, taking the total sum of the transfer to £15 million. Now, this is a deal which has been a few days in the making, you've got to say. Southampton emerged as a potential suitor to sign Finn Azaz last week. They made an offer for him which fell short of Middlesbrough's valuation. That valuation was worth around about £12 million. So that deal fell a little bit short, but it was always kind of expected that Southampton would be coming back in with a second offer to try and get the deal over the line. Now, as far as Southampton are concerned, they're really keen to bring in a quality player as a number 10, as an attacking midfielder. Of course, they've lost Tyler Dibling to Everton in a deal worth £40 million. We're also about to lose another player in Matthias Fernandez to West Ham United. So they're two key players in the midfield area that they are losing. And with that money in their back pockets and with big ambitions of getting back to the Premier League this season, they are really keen to bring in some proven Championship quality, someone who can help them get over the line and secure an immediate return back to the top flight under Will Still. Now, I think when you talk about Finn Azaz, you are talking about proven Championship quality. I mean, you only really have to look at his numbers over the last two seasons to see just how high quality he is in the second tier. Now, over the last two seasons, he's recorded double-digit hauls. For goals and assists in each of the last two campaigns. He's, of course, spent the last 18 months with Middlesbrough. Previous to that, he'd spent 6 months on loan with Plymouth in the Championship. He'd spent time with them before that in League One to help them get promoted. So it's really clear to see just how much quality Finn Azaz has at this level and how good a player he is and how capable he is of really shining this season. Last season, he got, I think it was 12 goals and 11 assists for Middlesbrough. Of course, Middlesbrough only finished 10th in the table, so it wasn't exactly a good season by Middlesbrough standards at all. But he did manage to record some really impressive numbers under Michael Carrick. And you do sort of think that if he was to play in a side like Southampton, a side who admittedly have better players than Middlesbrough, they have a better genuine opportunity of securing promotion to the Premier League. It could be a real match made in heaven for Finn Azaz to go into a team like that, where he's going to have the freedom to play his natural game, to show what he can do, and to ultimately get an opportunity at life in the Premier League. There was a little bit of interest earlier on in the summer from a couple of clubs in the Premier League over a potential deal for him. I think Crystal Palace were one of those clubs who were interested, and that didn't really materialise. So I think the next best thing from that point of view, as far as Finn Azaz is concerned, is to go to a club like Southampton. A club who have genuine aspirations of getting into the Premier League, a club who, frankly, are quite likely to go up this season. We have seen in the last couple of years the real disparity between those teams who have got parachute payments from the Premier League and those who have been sort of stuck in the Championship, like Middlesbrough, for a number of seasons, and just how big a gap in quality there is between those clubs. So I think it would be foolish to bet against Southampton securing promotion this season. And I think for Finn Azaz, that's been a really big part of his decision. Now, the truth of the matter, as far as Finn Azaz is concerned, is that he wants to be playing in the Premier League. He's an ambitious player. He's been at Aston Villa previously, who are, of course, doing wonderful things in the Premier League, and they've done brilliantly under Unai Emery, particularly in the last couple of seasons. So Finn Azaz is the player of real ambition, real quality, someone who had to sort of rebuild his career away from Villa Park. Those first team opportunities that weren't really coming under Unai Emery, so he went to Plymouth, got some game time under his belt, got a move to Middlesbrough. We were a club who were offering a sort of outside opportunity to develop in the Championship and to secure promotion to the Premier League. But now with Southampton, it does seem like the opportunity is there for him to go to a club who quite likely are going to be in the Premier League next season. And so for Finn Azaz, that could be a great opportunity to challenge himself at the top level. He's 24 years of age at the moment. He's 25 next month in September. So he's a player who, as someone in their mid-30s, it seems really stupid for me to say this, but he's someone he's not getting any younger. He is approaching those sort of mid-range years of his career, like that sort of prime phase of his career where he really needs to be starting to kick on and show what he's capable of if he wants to be a player who's playing in the Premier League for the bulk of his career and be really remembered as a Premier League level player. He does need to make that step up so we can move up there, adapt, grow, adapt to the Premier League, and really show that that's what he's about. And it does seem like it's a kind of a case of now or never for Finn Azaz. I think a move to Southampton would be a really great opportunity for him. I think for Finn Azaz, he's according to reports from the Northern Echo, he's been quite keen to make this move. It had been suggested last week that he was interested in making the move to Southampton. The latest report from Scott Wilson at the Northern Echo was actually saying that he's been quite unhappy at Middlesbrough, and so he wanted to move, which is a little bit different as well, because that kind of throws up a couple of other question marks about the deal as well, because it's not just a case of the opportunity arising and him wanting to move on. If he has been unhappy with Middlesbrough and he's been really keen to move on this summer, it does make it a little bit of a different conversation for Middlesbrough as well. It's not like you're dealing with a happy player who will just knuckle down and carry on as usual. If he does stay at the club, it might be the case that if Middlesbrough had turned down a bid, could Middlesbrough be stuck with someone who is unhappy and could potentially be disruptive over the next few months going into the January transfer window? It doesn't sound like that's what Finn Azaz is like. Rob Edwards spoke after the match against Norwich and was saying about how he'd been a model professional in the run-up to that. Despite all the interest from Southampton, he'd been training hard, he'd been knuckling down. So it doesn't seem like he is that sort of character who would be disruptive. It sounds like he's quite the opposite. In fact, someone who was really professional in the light of all of this transfer speculation. But if he was unhappy and he was desperate to make this move to Southampton, it seemed like it was always going to be likely to find a deal. Middlesbrough were obviously wanting to keep hold of Finn Azaz, but at the same time, if you do have an unhappy player on your hands, you do need to give them the opportunity to move on if your valuation's met. And Middlesbrough are a club who, with their current business model, they are quite firm with their transfer valuations. They're not going to sell someone for below what they're looking for. And so that number was £12 million. It does seem like Middlesbrough have been able to get slightly more than that. So it's £12 million up front with £3 million in achievable add-ons. I'm not quite sure whether there's going to be a sell-on clause in there as well. So if Finn Azaz did move to Southampton and then get a bigger move to someone else, would Middlesbrough get a slice of the pie in that situation? I'm not too sure, but that has been what Middlesbrough have been able to negotiate with other high-profile deals of late. Most recently, Ralph van den Berg going to FC Cologne. So I think it's a move that Middlesbrough had to make. I think you don't want to risk having an unhappy player on your hands, and I think for Finn Azaz, it's a great opportunity for him to go off and play for a club like Southampton, a club who are going to be challenging for promotion. And I think it's just a bit of a reflection on the landscape of the Championship as a whole. We've sort of seen a similar kind of moment with Hayden Hackney and Ipswich Town as well. Hayden Hackney had been linked with a number of clubs in the Premier League. Those offers didn't quite come, and Ipswich Town came in with a £20 million offer, which was accepted. Hayden Hackney ultimately turned them down. It's a slightly different case because Hayden Hackney is a Middlesbrough lad. He's a Middlesbrough fan. He's someone who wouldn't really want to leave Middlesbrough for another club in the Championship. So it is a different case with him and Azaz. But you are maybe starting to see a kind of almost like a sort of mini league between the Premier League and the Championship. These sort of cluster of 5-6 teams who are sort of yo-yoing between the two divisions. The sort of league where sort of mini league where players can kind of go to them and showcase what they're about and potentially move to a more established Premier League club. It does seem like that is the route into the Premier League for a number of these sorts of players. It's maybe seen as too much of an ask for a Premier League club to be signing a sort of mid-table Championship player and expecting them to adapt. It might be the Premier League clubs are looking at players around Europe and seeing better value for money. That might be the case as well, but it does seem to be the case that some of these clubs who are drifting between the two leagues are starting to kind of poach the better players from the rest of the Championship, and that's what we've seen a little bit with Hayden Hackney and the Ipswich links, and it seems like that's the case with Finn Azaz and Southampton. So this deal is likely to be done. It's going to be a deal which would, as I said, it would bring in £15 million for Middlesbrough, and I think the timing of it's not quite ideal as far as the club are concerned. There's of course only a few days left of the summer transfer window. For Middlesbrough, that could be a problem, but I think with the players that we have brought in so far this summer, we brought in Sonjay Hansen. He's come in and he's looked really bright so far. Since he arrived at Middlesbrough, of course, we signed Sverri Nipan as well from Manchester City. He's a player who is very comfortable playing in those number 10 positions as well. He can play as a number 8, but he can play further forward as well. So I'd suspect with Finn Azaz moving on, it might be that we see Nipan a little bit more often in the final third in one of those roles, particularly if the reports about Hayden Hackney are true, that Middlesbrough is so determined to keep hold of him. It would mean that potentially it would be Hackney and Aidan Morris in central midfield, with Nipan potentially having the freedom to play slightly further forward. Of course, we've also got Morgan Whittaker, who has been looking bright in the first couple of weeks of the season. I think he needs a goal to really find his confidence, because I think he's someone who, yes, he's creative, but I also think he's a sort of goal-scoring forward. So I think we really will see the best of him when he finds the back of the net. We've also got other players in there like Delano Bergsorg, who is he's all right. He's someone who offers something a little bit different. He's not someone that I'd be relying on in the starting 11. We've also got Riley McGree, who is a great player when he's fit, but we haven't seen it anywhere near enough. So we do have a lot of options in that attacking area. We've also got the likes of Sammy Silvera as well, who is naturally more of a forward-thinking player. Now that we've signed Matt Targett, it might be that we see Sammy Silvera pushed a little bit further forward. And I think for Middlesbrough as well, in the transfer market, we are still looking to sign a couple of attack-minded players. We've got Kali Sene, who's going to be arriving in the imminently, really. He's going to be coming from Lausanne. He's going to be coming in as a striker, and then the reports have been suggesting that Middlesbrough are also looking for another forward to come in as well. So that could potentially be a striker. It could be someone sort of a profile like Delano Bergsorg, who can play as a striker or as a supporting player. So that, once again, could provide a little bit more competition in those attacking areas as well. So there's going to be a lot for Middlesbrough to get stuck into in the last few days of the window. I think replacing Finn Azaz is going to be tricky, particularly with the goals and assists that he's been able to contribute over the last couple of seasons. But I think ultimately, the truth of the matter is that if you do have a player who's unhappy and another club has been able to meet your valuation, it does seem like the best thing for all parties to get the deal done. You don't want anything turning toxic. And of course, this is money that Middlesbrough now will hopefully be able to reinvest in the squad, whether it's this summer or in January or moving forward. So I want to know what you think about Finn Azaz and this whole situation. Are you happy that Finn Azaz is leaving? Do you think that the £15 million all in is a good deal for Middlesbrough to be receiving for someone like Finn Azaz, who's been so instrumental over the last couple of seasons? Drop into the comments below. Let me know what you think about Finn Azaz. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like, please do hit subscribe, and I will catch up with you next time.